Running Sentences presents A Spy's Dagger, Part 7, A Shift of Power. Dealing with the news about the kingdom and how things are going, Dante has to sort out what he wants to do now. Things are not looking good for him, whatever he decides on. This story is written and narrated by Michael Hunnery. It is the work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on and so forth is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025, Michael Hunnery, all rights reserved. Dante had left that sheriff's office in a bit of a daze. No direction, no real plans, nothing coming from him at the moment. The ocean breeze was the only welcoming thing as he watched boats move about the bay, trying to get whatever job they were doing done. The sound of approaching horses didn't even register for a moment, until a throat cleared and he found himself forced to look up and spotting the swords for hire who had Marcus trussed up on the back of their horses. We already went to the bank and got your money. Here is your man. Took us long enough to find you, though, since you never set a place to meet. Yes. Apologies for that. Feel free to leave him here with me. You're free to go, unless any of you know how to deal with boats. I do not think we do, sir. We're men of the land. Thank you, then. And, just so you're aware, there will probably be a lot of jobs for mercenaries coming up. The kingdom is going through some changes. Good or bad, Mr. Sir? Dante could only offer a shrug. Okay, we'll be taking our leave then, and I'll leave you with him. Marcus was not so gently dropped onto the ground beside Dante, and with a nod the group of soldiers left him alone. There were more than a few curious stares from people trying to figure out what was going on. That soon came to a stop, as they decided they didn't want to get involved in whatever was happening. This left Dante mostly alone with his own thoughts and worries about what to do. Going back to the island would be the smart thing to do and plan, but getting out of here and laying low for a while, that also sounded so much better than eventually probably heading back to the capital and seeing what it had going on. Maybe it was just time to retire and vanish. His thoughts were soon interrupted by some fresh arrivals off a boat, who were coming right up to him. We've found you. Oh, so you have Captain Helen from the island, and I have a present for the princess if she still wants him. He's asleep right here, by the way. He pointed towards the trussed-up Marcus lying on the ground next to him. The captain looked over to the man and then back to Dante with raised, questioning eyebrows. But he held up her hand to stop her from saying anything as he held out the copied note from the sheriff's office. We might also have a new ruler in this land, in case you hadn't already heard or wanted to keep up with the way things are going. What has happened? She snatched the note away from him. Ella has claimed the kingdom under her rule. This is a copy from the sheriff. You can go see his version if you like. I'll be waiting here under your guards, I guess, if you wish. She was looking over the note very carefully. Why would you wait? To give me some time to think about what I want to do or need to do. Life is short, and dealing with a massive power struggle isn't exactly fun. You could potentially sit it out on the island. He nodded thoughtfully to that, and at that, from the captain, but then shook his head no. How long until the now-reported queen comes with soldiers to wipe out the mess of that existence? He said. I don't think you'd do that. Are you sure about that, Captain Helen? She gave him a look that he was certain she meant to say she'd thought about it and was taking it into consideration, then turned to one of her guards with her. Get this checked out, will you, please? With Helen then turning back to Dante with a sigh. We're escorting you, and I suppose this one as well, back to the ship. Take some, please. Well, I will come, so don't need to shackle or drag me away with the guards. Show the way, and I will go, he offered. Really? Dante, you're just going to go simply? Why? I've found life is sometimes easier when you don't fight what's going on around you. I'm clearly outmanned and out-armed here, so this might give me just some more time to think about what I'm going to do in the future. She merely shook her head at him as the group surrounded him, and off they went. Princess Abella stood on the dock as the boat pulled up to the island. A few soldiers had jumped down to make sure the boat was tied down before the rest could head down the gangplank. Marcus was led off by Captain Helen, with Dante following a few short feet behind them. "Well, if it isn't my runaway fiancé," the princess barked out. "That was never settled upon," Marcus shot back with venom. "It was, and you know it, Marcus. Anyway, Captain Helen, you have a report, or appear to have one judging from the expression on your face?" "Yes, Princess. I got the report from Dante that says there has been a change in power. Your father has been overthrown by your sister," Captain Helen said. "And I want to make it clear that this was told to me by the town sheriff. It was not made up by me." Yes, we confirmed what Dante did hear from the police in the town that we came from," Captain Helen said, rolling her eyes. "Well then, I will have to deal with that in due time, but Mr. Marcus here has some answers that I need. Mr. Dante, though, I need you to show up in my cabin this afternoon, please." I was employed by the king, so if things are... Oh, I completely understand that you think this situation is not the same, but until we have proof, or at least more than a letter, you're still an answer to the king, and by proxy, to me." He flinched. The last thing he needed to do was get involved in the politics of an overthrown government. His head would get lopped off if anyone found out he'd taken a side, and he instinctively rubbed his neck where that might happen. To refuse the princess, though, might lead to the same issues, and in a no-win situation, he had to go along with it. "As long as I don't get dragged into things," Dante offered. "You are already a part of all of this. Why else would my sister organize to have you sent away?" It was a very good point, and he cursed himself for not thinking about it. Too much going on lately, and that meant too much was getting by him. He was supposed to be better than this, an all-knowing Hulk that kept his eye on everything and knew all. He didn't really, but he liked to pretend a bit. And yet lately everything felt like it was dragging him around instead of him managing to be on top of all of it. "Fine, I'll meet you this afternoon, as long as Captain Helen has no problem." "But you're back where you're supposed to be, so no, I have no problems. There are no problems whatsoever for me." Doing as he was told, Dante arrived in the afternoon at the cabin and was promptly shown around back to where the garden was. It was being tended to and improved by the workers and by the princess herself, until she spotted him and stood up. As she walked over to see him, she dusted herself off and then came to a stop next to him. "I bet you're wondering what I want." "My help in finding out what's going on?" "Yes and no." The no part was certainly a curious answer, so he had to ask. "What do you mean by no, princess?" "Well, you will go find out what is going on, but that isn't all I need from you. The captain of the guard, who is your friend, Henry, I believe, that is the feeling that you two gave off with one another. I need you to talk to him about all of this and find out what part he's playing in all of this." "Why Henry? Why talk to him?" "I have a belief that he is behind all of this without a doubt, no doubt whatsoever, or some link to it, or has some sort of link to it, since he's been in love with my sister for quite some time. I figured you already knew of this." He had been aware of the way the two had looked at one another, and when the man was around that castle, they just always seemed to spend time together, though Dante spent little of his own time wasting energy finding and figuring out about it. There was no need to, after all, since the relationship shouldn't go to a marriage as long as the king was alive. He sighed and nodded yes. "You want me to kidnap him or something?" "Well, he certainly won't come here on his own unless you can come up with a way to convince him that that's for the best, that is in his best interest." "And if it turns out they're in power? I'm just supposed to grab him and your sister, I mean, or just grab her, or what? Do whatever you must, but that link must be broken up. Your sister is the next in line, so I don't know. Abella nodded and strolled about the garden, looking over the plants and things that occupied it, who may very well standing next to a flowering bush that just sort of sat there unhappily, looking like it'd seen better days. And I would not object, and I would not have objected one bit to her taking power, but here I am, far away from the capital, after suffering from a poisoning. I suspect that someone wants to make sure that I am not around, and when someone does that sort of thing, I kind of have to pay attention. Yes, I can understand that. I don't know how much help I can be in all of this. The most trusted spy by my father, and you're unsure of yourself? That's a laugh. Sneak in, get information, and potentially capture your friend. You're capable of that, aren't you? To an extent, yes, Princess, but nothing is ever easy. I said nothing, Dante, about it being easy. Grimacing, he nodded that that was the case, and frowned as he thought over things about what he might have to do in order to accomplish all of this, what or how far away he would have to get. That or how far away would he have to get to be able to run away without being noticed. This, after all, wasn't his mess to deal with. I have no choice in the matter. Well, you can try and run if that's what you're thinking about, but my sister would like to do all in her power to track you down after she's eliminated me. You know, eliminating those that she might feel are a challenge to her, and you would certainly fit that category. He frowned. He wasn't really sure that that was the case, but maybe it was. Right. I'm still not... He started to sigh. The boat that leaves tomorrow morning for the nearby port. I suggest you be on it, but it is up to you. She cast one more glance towards him, with a faint smile on her lips, and moved towards the cabin. The plants around the garden seemed to grow dimmer as she left them. All Dante could do was grumble to himself about being caught up in all of this. No easy solutions or ways out of this. The words were soft and mostly to himself, though he was also sure that a few guards around the place had heard him as he turned to leave. When the next morning had come, Dante stood on the top deck of a newly arrived ship. He was uncomfortable as things were loaded and offloaded. The captain of this vessel stood by him watching everything go on. The princess told me to keep you safe and out of sight. Do I want to know why? No, Captain, you really don't want to get mixed up in this, though I suspect any enemies of any princesses won't exactly take that answer well. Great, good to know. Spill the fucking beans and still get tortured. That's the way things will be. Extremely likely, sir, although that's the way they've always been, so not much of a change, really. Dante replied. Fine, fine. It's a 2-day trip to where we are going. Stay in the cabin assigned to you or tucked into the hold. I don't want to see your face until we arrive at port, and only at the night time. Someone will come and fetch you at the right time. The room provided had not been terrible, nor great. It was a simple space with barely any room for the hammock it contained. Still, it did the job, and he stayed there, and there was food provided. The morning they arrived in the dock, a soldier had showed up and brought him to a small nook in the hold that felt like a coffin of a space. He stayed there, time passing, waiting, and hoping that he hadn't been forgotten about. Most of the day passed before he heard a knock on the fake door, which then opened up with that same sailor signaling for him to follow him to get out of there. The cold night was a welcome change from the stuffy interior of the ship. Sounds of lapping water and creaking wood, though, still kept things in a familiar, if annoying, territory for Dante as he walked down the dock towards the shore. There were a few people up ahead of him, and one slowly approached, a grim look on his face. It was one of a soldier who'd seen more than enough action, and had probably worked with Henry at some point. He came to a stop in front of him, with a soft sort of salute. "Sir," this soldier barked. "If I remember correctly, and I've seen you around the castle, your name is Laws?" "Yes, sir." "And you're here to escort me back to the capital?" "No, sir. I was told to keep a watchful eye out for you, though." "How nice. By who?" Dante asked. "Those that have an interest in the situation." The sound and tone of the voice, that there was a tired resignation behind all of it. This was a man who no longer wore the uniform, but kept up with affairs thanks to old buddies. A person who was always in, despite wanting to get out of being in the military. "Ah, yes. How many people are aware of the potential changes?" "Not many, and we should probably find someplace nice to have more of a chat about this." "There is never anywhere nice to talk, but I understand. I will point out that I'm neutral party in all of this and only examining things from the outside." Laws fixed him with a stare that bore down on the sort of attitude. Apparently, this attitude he was taking apparently wouldn't do at all. "There's no such thing as a neutral party, sir. We all wish we could be neutral, but it never works out that way. Choices will always have to be made on where we stand." Dante nodded. "Whose side are you on, then?" "No one until I get a clearer picture of the situation. But if I have to answer, I lean towards the princesses." Snickering at their response and the dodge of an answer, when he had just been told that there would be choices to be made, Dante shook his head. A lie and then a truth, straight to his face, and he was just going to have to accept it for what it was. "Are you going to escort me to the capital, then?" "There are several outposts that are stopping most people from traveling about the place, even out in the woods, so it is best to have someone who knows what's going on around." "Well, that's not great to hear, but fine, I guess. Nothing much I can do about that. Are we leaving tonight or in the morning?" "Morning would be better, I think, and we can have our discussion somewhere in a tavern in a away space." They got off on an early ride the next morning, having had a slightly more complicated conversation about what they were doing. Laws was merely escorting him, and that was really all there was to it. There was no real talk from the capital. The two horses at first were moving on the road, but shortly heading off into the woods at Laws's direction. Dante was keeping a careful eye on the man, not trusting him as they rode fast. The ground was an unsteady mix of dips and hills that went on with trees crawling all over the place. By late morning, Dante was feeling rather sweaty and exhausted already, even though it really felt like they hadn't gone far at all. "Is this going to take 2 days to travel?" Dante asked. "A day at most if we get lucky and no one stops us." "Is it just the government stopping us, or other parties trying to get involved?" "Well, we have the two princesses, of course, but there are other factions who like to seize their chances." "But you don't know them?" Dante inquired. "No, not really. Just that they're out there in force, patrolling and trying to take on anyone who looks weak." That sounded about right to Dante. Everyone looking to take advantage of what they could, and when they could. But a sort of outright rebellion? This was not going to go the way Princess Ella or Princess Abella wanted it to. "Why hasn't anyone done anything about any of this?" "I think it's confusion, mostly. We haven't heard much of Castle ever since the group you are part of, the ones accused of poisoning Abella, left it," his guide, Laws, said. "Well, that doesn't make much sense. One of the first things any takeover will do is shore up their forces and come out in force to, show that they're there," Dante said. "Yes, that's the problem. We can't get into the castle, and they've locked everyone out." "And I'm supposed to be able to get in there, or something," Dante said with a shake of his head. "Well, potentially, yes, sir, Mr. Dante." They were now following a path along a stream that had popped up. It made for a welcome reprieve from the insanity of the conversation. The more he learned about everything, the less he liked his chances of walking out with his head in place, or with his friend, or former friend, Henry. He concentrated on zoning out and letting go, since it was going to take a lot of thought to get through and into the castle. The gates of the capital appeared before them as they crested a hill several miles from it. A whole day's riding had brought them to this point, and every part of Dante's body ached as a result. The city was well lit, and people appeared to be moving about and around the main gate. Though, since they were far away, it was hard to tell if there were only guards or regular citizens, or if there were anyone at all. Maybe there were ghosts, for all he could tell. Do you have a plan for how to get into just the city, or are we riding up to the front gate and saying, "Hi, we're here"? Dante asked Laws. Going up to the gate would be the easiest solution for us, Laws replied. The army won't stop us? Dante asked in surprise. They have no orders to, remember? The palace is cut off from the rest of the city, so everyone is sort of carried on doing what they do, though on pins and needles waiting for some sort of situation to fall on them. Dante studied the gates again and sighed. This he hoped was going to wait until tomorrow. Sleep and the need to get out of the saddle were the only things he wanted to do right now. But he looked to Laws, who was staring off towards the city, but hadn't gotten off his horse. Are we camping for the night? Dante asked. Well, the gates are right there, and the sooner you get into the city, the better. There's a question of what I would even manage to do in there. That I could do. I don't have a fresh mind to really think things over. Is there something so pressing that it can't wait? I fear, sir, that nothing can wait anymore. Dante shook his head and swung his leg off of his horse. You'll have to knock me out then, or drag me there once I'm asleep then. Going in there right now solves nothing for us. It can help the cause, Laws pointed out. It can also harm, said Coles, as we rush in only to fall into a trap because we've been riding all day and are not thinking straight. I will not rush in there. The man struggled with this for a moment, but the tired expression on his face meant that everything was already decided. Slowly, he too got off his horse and stretched his tired muscle. Morning came and the two got up and back onto their horses. Up the road they went, straight to the front gate of the city. The guards were not really blocking the way in, but carefully watching people as they came in and out. It felt like sheer dumb luck when the guards pointed towards him, and Laws pulled them off towards the side. Mr. Laws, welcome back, the guard said upon seeing them. Anything changed, soldier? No, sir, this is the guy. He's one of the many who can find a way into the castle to see what's going on. Welcome then, sir. I wish you luck, the guard said to Dante. Are the guards all separated or something? The castle? It sounds like you were different from the ones at the castle. Yes, sir. The ones at the castle do not let people in and are, of the king's men, so to speak. Or, now the princesses or the queen's men, I guess. Then we can just go in? Dante asked, surprised. The guard nodded to Dante's question and turned to the other guards. Right, are we ready? To this, Dante turned to Laws, who looked back rather blankly. I guess they're up to something in order to get you into the castle? Laws said with a shrug. That seems stupid. I don't want blood on my hands. There are lots of things we don't want, yet they happen, Dante. Let's go see what problems await us, yes? I don't think I have a choice in this matter anymore. He urged his horse forward as the guards all began to filter into the city. This drew the attention of the citizens, who all looked on curiously, trying to figure out what was going on. The ride up the street was taking some time. The guards leading the way were being really very careful. Those citizens before them had soon vanished, realizing that something was going to happen and that they didn't want to be a part of it. Dante was in no good mood, though, since no one had informed him of any plans. It all seemed to be going straight forward and right to the castle. How was that actually supposed to work when this was a secret thing? Laws? Yes, what is it, Mr. Dante? Do we have a plan, or are we really charging at the castle gate with the hopes that it will do something? Castle gates, if I had to guess. As Dante shook his head, he noticed a familiar-looking carriage parked off the side of the street. He wondered if he should stop by and see if the lady was at home, but then she got out of it and looked straight towards him. There was a grin on her face, like she'd achieved exactly what she wanted. Mr. Dante, exactly who I was looking for and hoping to see. I hope you might take a moment of time to talk to me. I would love to chat, but these guards seem intent on trying to charge into the castle by the front gate. Lady Isla gave a haughty look to Laws, who spurred his horse ahead of them, heading off to stop those guards. That is solved now, isn't it? Yes, it would appear that way. What do you wish to talk about, Isla? What you're planning on doing? My job, as far as I'm led to believe it, is all about finding an answer to what's going on, maybe grabbing Captain Henry and pulling him out, then maybe talk people down from whatever decision they've made, all by the orders of Princess Isabella. And you, what are you doing here? Oh, making a nuisance of myself as usual. That said, I might be able to help you out if you have some time and are willing to listen. I don't think anyone has much time these days. Government troubles and all of that make acting quickly the go-to thing to do. She grimaced and nodded to his assertion, which, now that he said it, wasn't filling him with the utmost confidence, which he was going to need if he wanted to accomplish anything. It was what it was, and the sound of returning footsteps and the trot of horses' hooves drew him to see that their little force was coming back to him. Yes, it's a complicated thing. If you and your friend would step into my carriage, we can have a private chat about this. Please? You trust her, sir? He nodded yes to Laws's question. She's a capable lady to have on your side and knows the ins and outs of court. Plus, is a friend of the king and his daughters. Plus, she helped me out not too long ago. All I want to do is chat. Nothing wrong with hearing me out when you want to get into the castle, so if you don't mind. One condition then, that we all lay whatever weapons we have down now. Laws requested. I do not carry vulgar things except for self-defense, but I can agree with your condition. The carriage was not designed for several people to be comfortably sitting in it. In fact, Dante suspected it was designed for one person to be comfortable, and another to not be as nicely comforted in their seat. He sat across from Isla with Laws sitting next to him. He gave her a questioning look, hoping for some answers, but she waited for them to get fully settled in. Now, from what I can tell, the king is in fact dead. Dante waited for more, but when none came, he found himself speaking up. So there is going to be a power struggle then between the two princesses, and not just Ella grabbing for power as I was led to believe. That would appear to be the case, since the castle is closed off. They're protecting themselves, or there is a war of factions going on inside that we're not aware of, Isla stated. We know that there is at least some faction fighting going on inside. Not physical, but rather a lot of shouts from and echoes that might reach our spies at the walls. Yes, Mr. Laws, some fighting is occurring, or at least some ringing out to make it appear that way. There isn't really enough information to really judge how things are going. And the only thing people can think of is to send me in? Dante asked. The dry reply from Dante brought nods from both the lady and the gentleman. They seemed A-okay with this. Well, he really wasn't. Too much risk, too many variables that weren't understood yet for his liking. Do you have a plan to get him in, Miss Isla, better than the one that the guards have come up with than just rushing the gate? Actually, yes. They have invited me in as a mediator, and he, my friend, Dante here, can sneak in that way. They would see right through that. I bet that they'll be on the lookout for people like me and any of the spies that worked for the king, Dante pointed out. She shook her head and offered a sad but appreciative smile to him. I think you will be fine. No, all of the other spies were chased away, including the spy master, so they aren't really concerned about that right now. And why, dear Lady Isla, do you think that will be fine? What makes you think that all of this will be okay with me showing up? Because I've been invited, and whoever I bring along is certainly going to help me. Plus, they probably already suspect that you'll be coming to visit. Best to make it prominent instead of sneaky, Dante. So instead of walking through the front doors by attacking them, I'll be riding in a carriage through the front gates. Yes, precisely. Less potential death that way. And what of the guards? What will their job be, lady? Laws asked. Protection as my escort into the castle, to keep me safe while I'm there. Everyone wins at that. I don't know, Laws muttered out loud. It's better to have them alive, Laws, than throwing themselves against the gate that they don't know how to get around. It's just better that way. Well, I do have the soldiers' lives in my hand now. They seem to be following me. I'd rather not see people killed, Laws said. Well, it's settled then. Tomorrow morning we ride up to the castle. Why tomorrow morning, Miss Isla? Well, that's when my invitation for my arrival is, Mr. Laws. It would be rather bad manners to show up to an event early, don't you think? You do like showing up late. That too, Dante. But also, if I do show up and they aren't ready for me, well, that would be bad all around, since this is all about making impressions on people with power. They don't want to look bad in front of anyone else, least of all the person they're trying to show their good side to. Okay, that's fine by me. Mr. Laws, is this okay with you and your forces? But will your guards agree to it? Well, they probably will, but I should go check with them. Where will you two be so that I can catch up? The inn on Darmon Street, not far from here, Isla said. In the morning, Dante found himself riding in the carriage that bumped its way along until they had arrived at the main gate. Isla was sitting in her spot across from her, looking rather pleased with the way things were going. They came to a stop and the door was opened with a guard in a dark, heavy-looking armor standing there, poking his head in. What is all of this? My bodyguards and protection against you lot doing anything silly to me. What else would it be? Isla said curtly. This isn't what we agreed upon. Things change, and so must we, Mr. Guard. You don't trust me, and I don't trust you, so either I go in and get peace deals started, or you can continue to fight amongst yourselves until you're all mostly dead. What's it to be? The guard took a moment, then glanced over to Dante and nodded his head towards him. And him, he's not a guard. He is expected as well. People are waiting for us. I'm here reluctantly, if that makes you feel any better, guard. This situation is out of its mind, and the sooner we get in there and the sooner things are fixed, the better for everyone, right? That isn't helpful, Dante. But yes, he is expected by the group as well, Mr. Guard, so if you would let us in, we will sort this matter out as quickly as we can. With a growl, the guard pulled back and slammed the door shut. End of Part 7 of A Spy's Dagger. Thank you for listening.